On July 27, 2025, the skies over Ukraine shook, and within seconds, hundreds of North Korean tanks and thousands of soldiers poured into Ukrainian territory. The carefully planned invasion collapsed into chaos. Suicide drones tasked with leading the assault exploded prematurely in walls of fire. T-90 tanks, once symbols of power, were ripped apart by invisible mines. An armored vehicle hull was blown into the air and landed upside down, its crew never making it out. North Korea had gone from hunter to prey. Screams echoed across the fields as reactive armor panels exploded. Fuel lines caught fire, and medical workers were hit while trying to treat the dying. A young North Korean conscript, fresh out of school, crawled out of a burning armored vehicle, only to be incinerated by a second explosion minutes later. From the ridges and trees, the Ukrainian army attacked with terrifying precision. There was no place to regroup, no air cover, no second chances. This was not a fair fight, it was a trap, and the North Koreans rushed into it blindly. And beneath the fire, there was silence. Silence that only came after hundreds of deaths. What had caused the North Korean army to fail so badly? What was the trap? Come with me and find out. At exactly 6:40 a.m. on July 27, 2025. Satellite imagery revealed a chilling sight over eastern Ukraine. A vast armored column, longer than anything seen since the opening weeks of the war, was rolling westward from a captured Russian base in the Donetsk region. But this time, the tanks were not Russian. They were North Korean. Markings on the hulls confirmed it. Pyongyang had joined the fight. From that moment on, Ukraine knew it wasn't just facing another skirmish. It was facing a full-scale invasion launched by a regime half a world away. Leading the charge were 80 suicide drones, low-flying and fast, programmed not to observe, but to explode. Each carried enough explosive force to shred bunkers and dig craters into reinforced steel. They flew ahead like a swarm of steel locusts, clearing the path for what came next. 60 T-90 main battle tanks, 40 armored troop carriers, and over 800 elite infantry troops. The column thundered across the plains in tight formation, calculated, rehearsed, and lethal. It was the first time North Korea had deployed a fully integrated, mechanized strike group on foreign soil, and they weren't here to negotiate. Western analysts estimated the cost of the force at over $370 million, an unthinkable sum for a country under international sanctions. But that was part of the message. North Korea wasn't just backing Russia, it was sending a shockwave through NATO's eastern flank. They believed Ukraine was weak, exposed, reeling, but Ukraine wasn't sleeping. Deep beneath the surface, something far more devastating had already been prepared. Before we know what it is about to face. What the North Korean tanks couldn't see, and what their UAVs failed to detect, was the quiet terror lying just inches below the surface. 3 square miles of farmland west of their advance had been meticulously transformed into a death zone. Under the command of General Mikhailchenko, Ukraine's 93rd Mechanized Brigade had spent 17 consecutive nights laying the groundwork for one of the most dangerous defensive operations of the entire war. Buried beneath wheat fields, village roads, and irrigation ditches were over 40 to 200 anti-tank mines, enough to disable an entire armored division. But it wasn't the quantity that made the trap deadly, it was the precision. The mines weren't scattered, they were shaped into layered kill zones with alternating pressure plates, infrared triggers, and seismic sensors. Narrow safe lanes were deliberately left open to lure enemy drivers into false confidence. A design so cunning it had been reviewed and approved by NATO combat engineers. From the air, the battlefield looked like peaceful countryside. From below, it was a loaded gun. At 7:03 a.m., the first North Korean tank crossed the invisible line. Seconds later, a muffled blast turned 65 tons of steel into flying debris. Its turret, a solid chunk of armor, was launched 48 feet into the sky before crashing into a tree line. Within 4 minutes, 17 tanks were destroyed, most without a single shot being fired. Inside a Ukrainian command vehicle, UAV operators watched the chaos unfold through live thermal feeds. Each explosion was marked in real time, coordinates updated. Drones hovered silently above, feeding new data every 12 seconds. But then disaster nearly struck. One Ukrainian supply truck carrying replacement charges for drone batteries misread its GPS waypoint. It veered within 6 feet of the minefield's outer layer. Had it triggered a chain reaction, the entire trap could have detonated prematurely, turning months of preparation into a catastrophic failure. A drone operator screamed over the comms. The truck's driver slammed the brakes just in time. Dust settled, disaster averted. It was a haunting reminder. In modern war, even brilliance walks a razor's edge. But Ukraine held the line, and North Korea, blindly charging into what it believed was open ground, was now bleeding metal, oil, and lives into a landscape designed to consume them, and it was only the beginning. Please like, subscribe, and AM. Just 12 minutes after, the first North Korean tank erupted in flames. Ukraine unleashed its second act. This time, the ground didn't explode, it roared. From 3 concealed directions, south of the tree line, beneath the ridge line to the west, and from a village lane, came the unmistakable thunder of Ukrainian armor. 32 T-8 for Oplet tanks surged forward, engines howling at 45 miles per hour, their ceramic composite armor glinting beneath the rising sun. Supporting them were S-22 Veodana, self-propelled howitzers preloaded with GPS-G-guided shells accurate within 1.7 meters. On their flanks, mobile anti-aircraft platforms bristled with rotary cannons, waiting for what was coming from above. North Korean forces, stunned by the minefield's destruction, scrambled to reposition. Tank turrets swung awkwardly, soldiers dismounted under duress, and radio signals overlapped in chaos. But it was too late. The Ukrainian counteroffensive wasn't just a reaction. It was a pre-planned pincer strike set in motion the moment the first mine detonated. In the first 90 seconds, 9 more North Korean tanks were obliterated in direct hits. One Oplet round pierced through 2 armored carriers with a single shot. The second vehicle's hull caught fire before it even stopped. Moving above the battlefield, 33 surviving North Korean suicide drones, those that hadn't detonated in the initial push, began to dive toward the incoming Ukrainian tanks in a last-ditch retaliation. But Ukraine was ready. Mounted on both flanks of each armored spearhead were Schwavel 6 rotary cannons, 6-barrel anti-aircraft monsters capable of firing 4,000 rounds per minute. Guided by infrared target acquisition and stabilized on gyroscopic mounts, these cannons turned the sky into a meat grinder. Within 4 minutes, 47 out of 53 total drones were shredded mid-air. Some detonated only 30 feet above Ukrainian tank turrets, but their blast cones were redirected harmlessly skyward by the tank's reactive armor panels, designed to absorb and deflect upward explosions. The 6 remaining drones either lost signal or were pulled off course by electronic warfare interference. Ukraine's BILM systems flooded the airwaves with false GPS signals, tricking the drones into veering toward empty hillsides and abandoned barns. Then came the artillery. From a Regaline 600 meters east of the main kill zone, Ukraine's howitzers opened fire on retreating North Korean units. The shells struck with 3 meters proximity fuses, exploding just above fleeing troops and cargo trucks. One direct hit severed a fuel line, igniting a fireball that engulfed 3 medical vehicles in seconds. Ukrainian tank commander Vadim the Wolf K, watching the spectacle from a hull camera, said it plainly. They didn't retreat, they evaporated. By 7:31 a.m., just 16 minutes after the ambush began, the front had flipped. What had started as a blitz was now a collapse. And Ukraine, outgunned, outnumbered, was pushing forward. And the real shock had yet to arrive. What happened next would seal North Korea's fate in this region and shake its chain of command to the core. By 7:35 a.m., North Korea's spearhead was broken, its armored vehicles reduced to molten wreckage, and its drone swarm annihilated in the skies. The battlefield crackled with radio silence. And that's when the final blow began. Operation Frosthook, a classified maneuver months in the making, was now in motion. From pre-dug trenches, abandoned barns, irrigation culverts, and forest lines, 850 Ukrainian infantry soldiers began to rise. They had waited in stillness for over 36 hours, covered in camouflage nets. Body temperatures monitored by biometric patches to avoid detection from thermal drones. These were not conscripts, they were Ukraine's finest 7 fire teams. X-ray thermal sharpshooters, anti-armor RPG-29 crews, electronic warfare squads armed with Tukinman portable jammers and drone-guided mortars. As retreating North Korean infantry dismounted from burning troop carriers, attempting to regroup behind a collapsed farmhouse, the sky lit up. Dozens of RPG-29 rounds screamed across the field, each with a tandem-charged warhead capable of punching through 600 millimeters of reactive armor. One direct hit ignited a North Korean ammo truck, sending a fireball 3 stories high, its shockwave cracking windows half a mile away. From the ridge, snipers equipped with thermal 12AVX scopes picked off squad leaders one by one, targeting helmets with IR signatures that differentiated command units from foot soldiers. Each kill sent another wave of panic through the scattered ranks. Within 6 minutes, over 110 North Korean soldiers were killed or incapacitated.